Okay guys, welcome back to our pour room here at Counterintelligence. This is where we do our training. Today we're going to be doing a sample for you at home. We have a commercial customer here. They're a bathroom remodeler and they're looking for vanity tops. They got a very specific color that they showed us a picture of that they've been unable to find anywhere else in the marketplace. So we're just going to do is a nice cool white marble with a little bit of silver and a little bit of a custom green that we mixed up. And I think you'll like the way it turns out. So as usual with the white marbles, we're just going to start out by applying our 3 ounces per square foot of our white epoxy. And as usual, I'm just going to spread it out with my hands. My epoxy is a little bit looser today than you normally see because we're here in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's been almost 100 degrees even at night. So when I have the air off at night in the pour room, the epoxy gets kind of loose. It's pretty early here today. So it's moving a little freer, a little looser than you'll normally see in our videos. We really like to pour, like our pour room right now is about 72 degrees, but this epoxy was warm all night, so it takes a lot longer for the epoxy to cool back down than the air temperature. So we'll get a little bit more movement, a little bit more distortion in our artwork than we typically will get. You know, if you're working in a controlled environment, such as a pouring place in someone's kitchen, or if you've got your pour room ready to go. If you need to pour something early in the morning and you're in a climate like we have here in Phoenix, make sure you leave your air on all night. If not, you'll be fine. You know, if I left the air on in here for a couple hours and came back, the epoxy will acclimate to the room temperature, but it just takes a lot longer than the air itself. Okay, so we got the epoxy spread. I'm gonna clean my hand. And now we're mixing up just a small amount. This is 3 ounces. I probably will not use maybe about half of this. I might end up using more. It just kind of depends on how crazy I want to get. So anytime you're going over white, your colors go a lot farther than they do if you're going over black or any of your darker colors. So less is more. So for this first initial start, I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of silver over a lot of the board. You know, a couple of heavier spots is perfectly fine. But I just want a little bit of color everywhere. Because what we're going to do, now I'm going to set this color to the side. And I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm going to work that silver in to give us a soft undertone of a little bit of a marbleization going on. I want to be very random with the strokes that I make with my hand. I don't want to go all the way across the board with every stroke, and I don't want to be short on every stroke. I want to just be as random as I can possibly get, because that's how you're going to get the most natural looking marble look in this piece. So once I've got this part done, I'm going to come back with the same silver. I'm going to come back with the same silver. Now you can do this a couple of different ways. I could go ahead and shift over to my green, which I might actually do. I think it'll be a little bit better educational for you guys if I go ahead and add the green. Now this is a custom green that I made. This is our forest green and our bright white metallic 50/50. And it just has a nice kind of a frosty green kind of color to it. People really seem to like this one. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of create some spots of green. This sample that they're looking for, it doesn't turn into a green marble, but it's got some green kind of faded in there, and they're decent size areas. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to add, I'm not being really as nonchalant as I was with the silver. I'm trying to control it a little bit better. And as I usually tell you guys, whenever you're doing white, add a little bit of color and then start spreading it out. See how it's going to affect it, because you can't really take it back out. Once you put it in, it's very difficult to get it back out. So we'll see how much green we get out of that little bit of color that we just added. We can always add more, but it's very, very difficult to take it back away. Okay, so I think I want it to be just a little bit more defined than that. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Once again, when I'm moving this around with my hands, I want to be as random as I can possibly be with the shape and the length of these strokes. Okay, so I'm going to find me another spot. I'm going to add a little bit up here, a little bit down here. Kind of want these to be close together but slightly separated. I'm going to put a few drops away from that big area. All right. As usual, I'm always telling you all to fade out your color. Try not to have those hard stop-start lines. So whenever you start spreading this out, you want to keep working it out towards the field, even as you feel like most of the color is off of your hands. That way it subtly disappears out into the field instead of those hard straight lines. Hard straight lines is really your enemy when you're trying to make things look natural. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I might do a little tiny small spot over here. I really just want things to look dynamic, but also just want everything to look like it belongs where it's at. So you don't want to get too patterned in how you lay out your colors. But if you have this big bare spot and it just looks like you need something, just add a very small spot. You see, I just barely added any color. I could do the same thing up here in this little area. And then these little small spots go a long, long way to helping your pieces look authentic, look like real stone. Okay, I think that's plenty of green. We're going to set the green down. I'm going to go back to the silver. And now I'm going to add, not crazy veins, but I'm going to add some harder lines in here with the silver, just to kind of give it a little bit of a stronger flare in some areas. I don't want to go too crazy because of the picture that they showed us for this. This is a very specific look that they're trying to achieve for this customer. They found a picture and they just really, really liked it, but they just can't find anything like this in the marketplace. So you notice now when I'm trying to make a more defined vein, I'm using the stick and not my fingers. Reason being, when I use my fingers, it buries the color more into the white, which is just going to give you a different effect. It's going to bleed it out a little bit more and make it a little bit less defined. And so far, everywhere I've put these lines has kind of been in the white. I'm going to put a couple into the green as well. I highly recommend don't always try to avoid all the different colors. You just want things to look like they're naturally running through your other pieces. Now let's say that I get up here and I put this into this area of green and I really just don't like the way it turned out. If I want to take my fingers and run through there to try to blend it in more, feel free. Go ahead. You're free to do anything you want with these epoxy countertops. I'm just trying to go for a very specific look that this customer is looking for. So I'm not going to do that. I don't like how straight some of these lines are, so I'm just going to come back up here and just play with them until I get them to look like something I like. And then once they look like something I like, I leave them alone. I'm going to balance this out, put a little bit over here. lighting makes such a big difference. You'll notice if you do pour in places in someone's kitchen versus a board or a countertop that you may pour in a shop setting, such as this one, where you have some really good LED lights really shining right where you're wanting them. You will see a pretty drastic difference in the way things look to your eye. So practice and just comfort in being confident in what you do, and that that's enough color or too much color or not enough color. Just trust yourself in the practice and the time that you put in to know how much color is too much and how much is just right. Trust yourself. Okay. I think that's probably enough. Kind of maybe get me a little bit of a spot up here. And we are going to add a little bit more flair to this. We're going to add a little bit of the silver spray paint to this. The silver spray paint is just going to allow, as you walk around this piece, for some of this artwork that's in here to really catch your eye, because it's going to shine. It's going to reflect. So anytime you're using metallic spray paints, you know, I always tell everybody in class, less is more. You want these to stay subtle. If you get too crazy with these, it really takes away from the effect that you're really trying to achieve. The metallic spray paints look really cool if they're just really thin little lines here and there. And just like we did with the other colors that we added, I'm just going to run this stick through it until it looks good to my eye. And then I'm going to leave it alone. There's no exact amount that I need to add, you know, and you may, a lot of your pieces, you probably won't add something like this. You definitely don't want to add this if you haven't shown the customer what this will do, what it looks like. But most people here in Arizona, they really like this effect. Most of our customers do. When I do training classes, people seem to really get excited about this effect, because it's not necessarily super cool when you first put it down, but after this epoxy sits for about 10-15 minutes and everything's kind of settling into what it's going to look like, as you walk around it, it kind of comes to life, because the shiny silver spray paint sits on the very top of the epoxy, so it reflects a lot of light as you're walking around. And it's just basically it's an attention getter in these pieces. And like I said, they look the best when they're thin, you know, subtle. If you go crazy and you put big blobs of this in there, all of a sudden it doesn't look real anymore. It doesn't look authentic and natural. And you will hear me say that so many times if you come to class. There's a couple things you're going to hear me say nonstop, just constantly. And that is random and natural. That's because those two things go hand in hand. It's very hard to get things to look natural if you can't be random with how you apply your colors. You know, I've seen a lot of people come through class, and I tell them random, and they actually do a pretty good job of trying to be random, but then they get a pattern to the randomness, so it's no longer random. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but it's true. Just vary it as much as you can. Vary the pressure that you're putting on the stick. Vary the angle of the stick. Vary the amount of paint you use. Vary the amount of metallic that you use. Just vary things every single step of the way as much as you can, and that's just going to help your pieces look more natural and more natural. So before you go to spray this with isopropyl alcohol or whatever that you want, If you want to add any more color, I could come in here and add more green. If I wanted to add more silver, I could absolutely do any of that I want to. But for right now, this looks pretty good to me. This has got about the right amount of color in it based on the pictures that the customer showed me. So I'm gonna hit this with some alcohol. Then we're gonna let that evaporate, hit it with a torch, make sure we got all of our trap bubbles and stuff out of here, and we'll be good to go. There's a couple little things that I'm going to have Chris come in and show you guys. These are the type of things when I'm telling you to look for things that look unnatural. These are the small things that I want you to look out for. So if you see, you got all this nice organic stuff and then these little hard circles, you just want to bring a stick in and just kind of move that color. I think there was another one over here. There's a green one right here and it just doesn't fit. So all I got to do is just take that stick, move them around. Those are the type of things when I'm saying look for things that are unnatural looking in your pieces. Those details make a big difference to your customer. There's nothing that'll make one of your customers happier than when someone walks into their home and they say, "Oh, you got new marble countertops." They don't even know that they're epoxy at first. They might figure it out, but at first glance they're like, "Oh, those are marble countertops." That's really what you're going for. If you can get to that point in your career, you can make a lot of money. So that's going to sum this one up. This is for a very specific customer. If you guys would like to see any type of colors, or if you've got a marble that you don't know how to make and you want to send us a picture of it, you can put it in the comment section or you can DM us. We'd be happy to do a video and help you out. So we'll see you on the next one.